So we're going to get this show on the road with this hot topic. Of course, we're talking about sex. And I just said that out loud. I should have spelled it because my little one is running around. But maybe I shouldn't. Maybe there's a lesson in that too.
That's the whole point of this conversation.
So, yeah. So we're going to talk about with life coach Daniel Adams, and go check his website out, youucancreate.org. No spaces, hyphens, nothing. Youucancreate.org. And he and his wife, Tina, are life coaches that do retreats and experiences. They speak at conferences. They do courses and one-on-one coaching. But tonight, bring your questions, bring your comments, get excited. We're going to talk about the name of this. I want to make sure I get it right because you worded it so well. How to overcome feeling broken around sex so you can connect deeply in your relationship and increase the impact of your business. So this is a huge topic that we're going to try to cover in like 20-ish minutes.
We're going to start the conversation. I hope we get
That's right.
Continue it.
Yes. So many puns are coming up in my head right now, but I'll be mature and I will not say them. Yes. So being, as we've talked before, being from a very conservative religious background and upbringing around this topic, do you feel that that experience brings a lot of hang-ups for people?
Often, yes. And not because of anything that religion did or didn't do, but for me personally, it was the way I interpreted what was being said. And it's kind of interesting, I go through the New Testament and the Bible, and there's just simply not a lot of material about sexuality. There's a couple of mentions of like don't from Paul. And other than that, it's kind of just like not really touched on much and kind of just left up to like, And I know, each congregation kind of has their own flavor of like how things are to be done. And each person's got, it's like such an intimate topic. And yeah, there's so much interpretation that goes on. And I think a lot of the times it's just simply silent. We just simply don't talk about it. And, for our son, like he just turned 9. We just explained to him the mechanics like 4 weeks ago. And he goes, we were reading this anatomy book. He included.
We bought one of those. We haven't read it with our 5-year-old yet, but our parents' first teacher's parent educator suggested this book. I think it's called "It's Not the Stork," and she suggested it around 5 or 6 years old, but we haven't read it yet. And so that's awesome to hear. I think 9 feels good to me, but that might be some remnant of my purity culture shame that's still there. But 9 that feels.
Well, it was fun for him because he kind of like it unfolded. It was just this natural thing, How do babies get made? And we said, well, sperm meets egg, and that was as simple as it needed to be. And he said, okay. And then 4 weeks ago, it was like, well, how does the sperm get to the egg? And that's when here's the book. Yes. What do you notice? And he goes, that's gross. And then on to the next. Like it was just like, oh, I have an elbow, I have a penis, I have, for him, like it's all the same. And we've worked really hard to just keep it open, to get comfortable saying anatomical terms. You have a knee, you have a vagina, you have a nose, you have a penis. Like to get to a place in ourselves where we can just talk about it without blushing. And that's been a change, from growing up in a spiritual context and still being there.
Yeah.
It's been interesting to coach in that arena and have people like, you're really open about sex. And it's like, well, yeah, like, wouldn't God want us to learn about the most important procreative power in the history of the universe? Like the single most potent power there is on the planet?
Wow. Yeah. So it's easy to separate our professional choices from our intimate moments, but what you help your clients realize is that the two really do impact each other. Our intimate life in the bedroom, our intimate life with intercourse, and feeling turned on and feeling attracted to someone, and how we use those feelings, that impacts our businesses, whether we're entrepreneurs like you and Tina, or we work for, just it impacts our professional choices. But yeah, so you try to help your clients realize that we do need to realize the impact of two, that they impact each other, right? And that's hard for us to get our minds around.
Well, and especially for entrepreneurs, like the fallacy that I can compartmentalize my life as a business owner. Like if my relationship's affected, my business is going to be affected. Like there's no way to just like hang work on the shelf when I come home. They're all entwined, and it's, how do I say it? The single greatest place that I have hid all these pockets of guilt and shame is in money and in sex.
Yeah,
and I found as I coach and I work with other coaches, you know, that have been doing this for 20 years, they talk about that's the single greatest place where people are experiencing the most guilt and shame is around making a ton of money and enjoying sex and having that be okay. And, you know, and there are these distinctions to be made between sexuality and touch and orgasm and nudity. And, you know, for a lot of folks, those are all synonymous. That's all the same thing. And a lot of it just doesn't get talked about. Or if it does, that there are judgments that go on like, oh, well, they're really open sexually and that doesn't fit my value system. And so it's been interesting to like build those bridges and essentially learn how to speak a new language. And that's part of what people are seeing in work too, is like the more comfortable they get with their own sexuality, that shows up in confidence at work. And I'm loving one of the questions here, like a lot of times kids come up with these super innocent questions that are just curious and amazing and beautiful and wonderful. And it's in random places. It's in the car. I remember like right before I got married, like I hadn't learned anything about women's anatomy or about the sexual response cycle. And I was like with my family at Disneyland. And I was like, Dad, like I got to know more about sex. And like, it's next week. I'm getting married. Like I've saved myself for this experience. I want it to be awesome for her. I want it to be awesome for me, and to build a foundation of awesomeness. Help me understand more. And we're just sitting there like next to the Buzz Lightyear ride and like just having this conversation about how sex works. And like, Buzz shows up to sign autographs and there's like instantly 150 children standing like 3 feet away from us. Like,
wow.
So I'm totally relating on like the card, like it comes up at the weirdest times, but that's the thing. Like, what if it was a conversation just like QuickBooks? What if it was a conversation just like whatever show you're watching on Netflix? What if it was a conversation just like being comfortable with feelings and emoting fully and being comfortable with people's anger and being comfortable with people's sadness, being comfortable with people's fear and joy? Like they're all just, they only have the weight that we give them. And I notice for folks trying to separate work and sex and compartmentalize them, like when they're feeling frustrated and unheard, that's going to leak out somewhere. And a lot of times it shows up in work performance.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So what is one exercise or challenge that you give your coaching clients when they are really struggling to whether to feel pleasure or to enjoy sex? Yeah,
like, and to pre-frame the problem, the most common story that I get is the female client in her 30s or 40s or even 50s that comes and says, you know, my husband needs sex once a week, so I kind of just lay there and I wish he'd hurry up and finish because I know he needs it and I'm not really sure how to get my body to respond.
Yeah.
And I feel broken around that. I feel shame around that. I feel like everyone has that figured out except me. And I'm, you know, we've been married for X number of years, and why is this still a frustration? And like, whatever, I'll just check it off my list. And they're like yearning for this deep connection.
Yeah.
And to be seen and heard and understood and like share in the fullness of all their experience. I had a client just this week who said, yeah, it was the first time that I just like had this massive sobbing fit right in the middle of sex around my body image. She's like, I am just hating my body right now. And I just like he loves me and he says he loves me and he's turned on by me and he's like, we're on our way to having sex. And I just like had this explosion of body image shame and I just like could not go there. And he was like kind of weirded out by it. And I asked him, you know, he said, I've been working on my feelings this week and getting, you know, working on some self-love practices so I can get in my body, and I've shifted my nutrition. So I'm building this self-trust in myself. And that's shifting the way I see. So I approached him and said, hey, are you ready tonight? And he's like, why? So you can cry again? And it's like, it's this dance, but also like so many women are craving to be seen and just show up in their fullness and have their man be comfortable with that. And the problem is many of the men are terrified of real intimacy, closeness, openness, vulnerability, large emotion. So that's what I'm seeing. And then one of the practices to overcome that is, you mentioned pleasure. One of them is to untether pleasure from sex. Like they're two separate things. Like I can experience pleasure and have it be not sexual at all. I can experience pleasure and have it be fully sexual. And so some of the ideas are just like eat strawberries and take a breath while you do it and feel the squirt in your mouth and like enjoy the coolness of the flavor. And like, what are the things that bring you joy and pleasure and satisfaction? Is it a cold shower? Is it a warm shower? Is it scent? Is it like essential oils? Is it like, what can you do to get yourself in not just your head, but like fully embodied? And some of those are breath practices. Like, let's all take a breath right now. Because how many times in a day do we do that on purpose?
Right.
I'm like, what if I breathed all the way down into my stomach? What if I breathed all the way down into my pelvic floor? Could I handle what comes up? And so that's one of the practices to start overcoming this frustration, this shame, this like, why am I the way that I am? He really wants it, and I guess I could do it for him, I guess. How can we embody ourselves and build this trust in ourselves? Because a lot of times, honestly, when a man wants to have sex with a woman because his drive's high, and depending where she's at in her cycle or chronologically, like she may not be interested.
I'm so glad that you're mentioning that, and I'm glad that in this course that you and I and Amy are in, Project Shift, plug with AJ Amix and Jonathan Heston. I was so glad Jonathan mentioned the different, how cyclical women's desires are based on every week, our levels of progesterone, estrogen, or testosterone being different. It leads to us wanting different types of sex, different types of foreplay, much more
or
romance,
even just cuddles.
Yeah. And
like just hold me during my period.
Just hold me. Yeah, totally. It seems like cutting edge research. I put in the comments a book by Elisa Vitti called In the Flow, and it talks all about that, about the superpower of the female brain that we have cognitively and emotionally, because our different hormones each week, and owning the power of that. And it really, oh my gosh, it helped me so much with honoring and trusting and respecting my different sexual desires each week. And instead of shaming myself for thinking, but that felt good last week, why didn't it do the job this week? And now I'm like, oh, my brain's in a totally different place this week,
right?
Because of testosterone and progesterone and estrogen. So women, read In the Flow by Elisa Vitti. It's cutting edge research. It's phenomenal. It's going to be amazing. And you can still be a feminist and also honor the female brain is different from the male brain, and it's amazing. So sorry. Back to what you were saying.
No, it's right on point. And
you were saying
there's so much good in there that I want to run with.
Yeah. And you were saying women, especially depending on what part of the cycle you're in.
That's one of the key principles you hit on. Like just simply telling the truth about where you're at is huge.
Yeah.
Because like the essence of feminine energy is change. Women love to nurture stuff. Why they have babies and they grow them into 40-year-olds. It's like, right? It's such this innate, beautiful thing to change and to shift and be dynamic. And like, of course your body's going to change. Of course your hormones are in flux. Of course what worked last time isn't going to work this time. Like, it's not just this routine. I mean, it could be, but like, where's the creativity? And so that's part of it too. Like, one of the other practices is to really get in your body, is to like start getting comfortable with movement. Start getting comfortable in front of a mirror. Start appreciating yourself with the lights on. Have a gratitude shower where you just like touch your shoulder and say, hey, thanks, shoulder.
Thanks, shoulder.
Or like put your hands on your abdomen and just think about all the amazingness that has come because of your abdomen, and just get in your body, get used to being touched. And I know like that's helped so many women just start to get into like, what is it that I really want? Like getting super clear on their yeses and super clear on their nos. Because for a lot of women, it's not a true yes. They just do it because their husband wants to. And there's almost this like self-betrayal that goes on, because it was like, well, I said yes, but every part of my body meant no. And that can be taken to the extreme. I know like for some women, they just simply say like, we're not having sex. There's a beautiful comment in there of just like, yeah, there's, you know, a bunch of factors led to like, all right, intimacy's done. Like we hit a certain age. Or I know like a lot of folks after miscarriage or after a child death, been working with a couple of clients this year, and that just like the hormones are all over the place. The grief symptoms are super intense, and their husband's wanting to heal his grief through sex. And she's like, if I get pregnant again, I feel like I will literally scream and die because I'm experiencing all this pain from the last time I was pregnant. So like, how could she even be in a safe place to think about sex or even consider sex? And so like to have the communication skills in that space, to be able to create win-wins, to be able to think creatively. How is it that you can dance together? How is it that you can, because the whole point is intimacy, like capital I intimacy, closeness. What closer way to be with a human than to be literally inside a human? And like, there are so many different ways to do that. Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman won't kiss because it's too intimate. Like she's a sex worker in that movie, right? But she won't kiss because it's too intimate. She'll have sex, that's fine. But kissing on the mouth, like super vulnerable. And so just to realize like it is super vulnerable for both the man and the woman. They're opening themselves up to major rejection. How do we get in the body to breathe so we can say like, you know what, that's a no for me, but here's what I'd be willing to help, you know, to help with. Here's where can we create the win-win? What would be awesome for both of us? And to start to have that conversation opens up so many doors for people.
Yeah. Oh, that's so powerful. Yeah, I don't think it's common knowledge to think that what we eat and how we move during the day, how we interact with people during the day, how much we're tapping into our senses during the day. I don't think it's common knowledge that all of that outside of the bedroom stuff greatly affects the stuff in the bedroom. But it does. And that was the same thing that you're saying. Elisa Vitti in the book, she has 2 books, Women Code and In the Flow, phenomenal books. And there's even an app where she syncs. My husband gets notifications. Husbands get emailed what week their wife is in of the luteal ovulation, follicle, menstruation, and so what that means for date night ideas and types of intercourse. So like the week right after follicle, right after ovulation, follicle, you have the most energy. Like your hormones are the lowest as a woman, so it's like game time. So you don't need much foreplay at all, and very little actually. And you're just like work-wise, intimacy-wise, personal life-wise, everything is let's do this. Everything is awesome. And so,
right, like I'm going all in on my business.
yeah,
I'm like, we're planting
totally.
the garden, like we're doing all the things, including
Yep.
sex.
Water park trip, like new things with your kids, new things in the bedroom, just let's do it. And so, she even has an app that syncs with your partner to let them know what week you're in, which is super cool. And, but she did echo what you said, the power of the more that we tap into our senses during the day and allow ourselves to feel pleasure through sound, sight, feeling, I'm forgetting one, smell, the easier pleasure in the bedroom comes to us if we allow pleasure to come to us easier during the day. So that's been really powerful for me. And then, and if we have someone watching this that was probably where you and I were years ago, that they're hung up on a religious narrative, a story that's holding them back. I put a book in the comments by, it's called Good Christian Sex by, it's right over there on my shelf, Bromley something. Can't think of her last name, but it will blow your mind of the exegetical work that she's done on these scriptures that we were always preached at in middle school youth group about. It's like, oh, that's what that scripture, that was the original context of that. Oh, that's not what I'm wanting to do at all. Or that's not, I'm a woman in 2020. I'm no longer viewed as property. So what does that mean for my sex life? And so single or married, what does that mean? So I put that book in the comments too. If you're watching this and you're feeling, oh, Meg or Daniel, I can't even think about what feels good to me in the bedroom because there's so much shame around it thanks to my Christian upbringing. So check out Good Christian Sex. And if you want to read a counter argument to Good Christian Sex, I'd recommend, but don't agree with, I'd recommend Real Sex by Danielle Winner, I believe is her name. Good, Real Sex. And the subtitle is The Naked Truth About Chastity. So those books, they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. Both were helpful for different reasons, but check those out. What books would you, I know we have questions and we're going to get to them, but what if someone's watching this, because I have a lot of recovering holy rollers in this group, if someone's watching this and they are stuck on a shame story around sex because of their Christian upbringing, what books or blogs or epiphanies did you have that could help them? Then we'll get to questions.
Well, the first one was just checking in with God and saying, like, God, do you want me to?
That's a good place to start.
Like straight to source. Like, okay, God, tell me about this sex thing because everybody's got a penis and everybody's got a vagina. And, like, is this something you want me to enjoy? Is this something that's just strictly for children? Is this, and to read different benefits about like how it creates oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Same thing that mom and infant feel when they nurse also happens when human beings kiss. So like how powerful can that be to cement a union that God sanctified and sanctioned and witnessed? Mm-hmm. So like when I checked in with him, the answer was like, well, yeah, what other power would I have used to create the world with?
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I had this epiphany recently, like, because I told this story that, I was a burden to my parents and all these things that kind of came from these shame thoughts that I had. But it just hit me after a meditation recently the other day. Like, what if my mom loved herself so much? And what if my dad loved himself so much? And what if they loved each other so much and loved God so much that they chose to have sex and create me? Like, I am born from love. Mm-hmm. And I know, different people have different experiences. Some children were born from rape or sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. And so they may feel they have a different experience than mine, and that's beautiful too. But like, as I talk to God about it, like, the truth is, like, I understand that he would like me to enjoy sex.
Yeah. It's such a supernatural, sacred thing. And sometimes I wonder why God gave us occasionally stupid humans such a superpower because it is, misused and misinterpreted and used for harm. And that's also helpful to look back over some stories that are limiting beliefs to us around shame from purity culture, and realizing that some of them, I won't say all, but some of those voices in our life that were led to us having so much shame around sex, they might have been coming from a place of, I'm thinking of my own experience. Some people in my life, they were coming from experience of it was used for harm against them. And so the pendulum swung too far.
100%.
Yeah. And so then for me, part of my journey was for forgiving certain Christian mentors that gave me such a limiting belief around sex that was filled with shame, and forgiving them because their story came from a place where sex wasn't used as in a beautiful, healing, super powerful, supernatural, sacred thing that it was meant to be. So
it was used to take instead of to circulate, to give and receive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love what you brought up too, like, because right now in culture in America, usually the only thing that starts the sex conversation is shadow. It's because somebody's like neck deep into porn, or because there was an affair, or because there was abuse that we've been hiding and sitting on, and it's like eating away at our self-confidence. It's eating away at our self-worth.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
And so many of the discussions around sex happen simply because it comes from the shadow side. It comes because like it's so in our face, like you have to deal with this porn addiction because it's ruining your life. Okay, I guess finally we'll talk about sex. And so like that's part of why I serve in this arena, because it's like, well, what if we have the conversation long before the affairs occur? What if we have the conversation long before, the porn addictions, or long before there's abuse, or a situation where the man's feeling frustrated and she's holding out and he's just going to take what he's going to take anyway. Long before it's a wedge that drives us to divorce.
Like,
how can we step out of those stories and having, open discussion about what would you love? What do you feel? And getting comfortable with your feelings, because your ability to like ride the 4 core emotions of anger, sadness, fear, and joy also corresponds with your ability to ride the waves of orgasm.
Yeah. Amen to that. Yeah.
So like none of it's bad. It's all just energy. How do we learn to ride those energies? And that's a big topic for another day. But
yeah, totally. Yeah, we're gonna just have to have you back, and this would be awesome. I want to get to questions, and so
let's do it.
Yes. So it came up twice. But Jed and Tim do women's. Okay, I want to get their question right. Where did it go? Do menopausal women still have these cycles hormonally? So this is something I'll let Daniel share, but I'm going to share first.
I'm not sure. I know a lot changes with menopause.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what goes on hormonally. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And Elisa Vitti, I'll put the Amazon link in the bottom of these comments, in her book, In the Flow. He talks about how if a female anatomically connected woman, I know that there's also an underlying implicit school of thought here, and there might even be some that are offended that I am speaking so exclusively
binary.
Yes, thank you. So I know that some might be thinking that, and I am aware of that. So, and it's also amazing to really dive into how the female brain is so different than the male brain and honor that, and that's beautiful. And this is the amazing part. If a binary woman, am I saying that right? Yeah. If she procreates and brings life into the world, has a baby, she'll experience 7 different hormonal rewirings in her lifetime. 7. And that
from having one child.
Oh, good question.
Keep going.
Great question. Man. Okay. I'm going to have to answer that in the comments later. I'm going to have to get out the book and dig that out. So at least 7 if she has one child. And so in the book, In the Flow, it goes through all of those stages. And so when menstruation starts, all the way to perimenopause, premenopause, postmenopause, menopause, and what that means for your for the way that you cognitively process things each week, the way that you enjoy and want to be intimate each week. So to answer Tim and Jed's question, look in the comments. I put the Amazon link to the book there, and it talks about what each basically how to enjoy sex at any age and stage as a woman, and loving yourself and knowing that your hormones are going to be rewired at least 7 times in your lifetime as a woman if you have a baby. And what's even crazier is what happens to the female brain when she gives birth. It is a more intense hormonal rewiring than what happens to us during puberty. Isn't that crazy? So crazy.
I see evidence for it. Like, it totally makes sense.
It's just it's so amazing.
An interesting book I read called The Energies of Love by Donna Eden. And she talks a lot about how when menopause happens, like, so much shifts for the woman to where she like really doesn't care about her meeting her man's needs anymore. Like, she's moved on to matriarchy and legacy building, and like, I've got this posterity to take care of, all my kids are raised, like, I'm ready for a new phase, and honestly, like, my partner's needs aren't super important to me anymore. And she kind of stands up very much in like an equal place. Not that she wasn't before, but there's just a whole other level to it where she's like, chemically, like, she just doesn't care the same way she did. She's not as attuned to that the same way that she was. And that can be a huge shift. You know, they talk about there's still ways to connect so that you're honoring each other. There's still ways to connect. Because again, like, if we untether the act of sex and orgasm, like, those can be 2 different practices. So like, maybe sex does stop, but maybe orgasm doesn't. Maybe orgasm stops, but sex keeps going, and on and on. Like, how can you continue to honor each other as you age? Based on like, what do you feel like your needs are? What are you using? Because again, like, the whole point is to connect. And there's this whole spectrum, right? Like, I was taught you shake hands and that's always plutonic. And then, you know, when you're dating, you hold hands with somebody, and then maybe you give them a kiss on the cheek, and then maybe you kiss them on the mouth. And then later, as things evolve, you know, you're touching genitals. And then if you go all the way, you have sex or whatever.
All the basics.
Like, from intercourse, right? And there's like this spectrum of like A to Z, and you hear all the stories of like, well, we didn't go all the way. But again, like, any of those activities can be incredibly vulnerable, can be incredibly open. It can be an exchange. For some people, that can create orgasm. I met a lady who can orgasm in 3 breaths.
Wow.
Just impressive. On command, because she's in her body that much. She does it with her breath, and she's
gold star for her.
There she goes. And like, it's like, she doesn't need a partner. She doesn't need to be touched. And so like, it's possible. And so it's curious to look at like, what is helping connect the couple? What's helping them build capital I intimacy and shared space and shared knowledge? Do we answer the question about menopause?
I think so. Yeah. Check out the book to know more, for those that are interested, to add on to what the books that we just shared. And excuse me. Okay. Yeah, I think the next question is very similar, which is, do you have any clients? I'm kind of filling in the question. Do you have any clients that do, I think we might have already answered this a little bit, but that when they state they're too old, and I think maybe we did answer this, but do you have any clients that I'm too old to enjoy sex anymore?
I haven't experienced the too old. I have experienced like, I refuse to have sex until I get in a different place. I've had some who are like, I just miscarried and I refuse to have sex with you right now.
Yeah.
For like some months. And it's a time for both partners to look at like, you know, we said we were committed. Are we still committed? Because there are so many facets to our relationship.
Right.
It's a time to look at, again, to untether orgasm from sex, from touch, from
Oh, that's so true. And so hard.
Pleasure, right? Like, it's not like everything stops, because the thing that humans need most as they're grieving is like human mammalian touch.
What does that word mean? Mammalian.
From a mammal.
Okay, makes sense.
Like skin on skin, right? Like babies,
Yeah.
right? Do the skin on skin chest with mom and dad, and it's like the most bonding, delicious, healing, nurturing thing ever. And like, when folks are grieving, and grieving losses such as like, we decided we're too old for sex, or she decided we're too old for sex. Like, there's loss there. There could be some like, what the hell? Like, I didn't sign up for this. And that, like, maybe that awakens some anger in you. Maybe that awakens some fear in you. And it's fascinating, right, to come out of the shadow. Because like, for me in my relationship, when we went periods without having sex, I had this idea of like, well, if I don't orgasm, I'm going to die. Or something horrible will happen, or I'll lose my manhood. And there were just all these issues wrapped up in it. And it's like, well, take a breath. I'm still here. It turns out I don't have to have sex every week to live. I thought I did. I thought it would be the worst. But like, for a time period, that wasn't part of what we were doing after miscarriage. And it took time to like rebuild the trust in her body and mine, because I sowed seed in her that did not work. And that hurt.
Yeah.
And I stopped creating in my business and feeling like I could hold down a decent job and perform at work, because it was like, yeah, my seed didn't work. It aborted. So like, those connections are real. So to feel through the sadness of that, the anger of that, and to look for like, where are the win-wins? Where's the touch? Are there ways to explore orgasm on my own, or with her, but not having sex? You know, in the traditional penis vagina sense.
Right. Yeah. Wow. From my experience, it is a super healing moment as a goal-driven, result-oriented go-getter to get to a place that sex is not a game where orgasm is the objective. It is a journey. It's a journey. It's about being present in the process and enjoying the moment and taking the pressure off of, I have to have a climax. I have to get him there to a climax. And it's like, you're not in a race. Like, calm the F down. Just enjoy the touch and the smells and the touches and the taste. And so I know I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs are similar, that it's every part of their life is competitive, is result oriented. And that what that looks like in the bedroom is a lack of presence, which is so needed and powerful for intimacy.
It is the catalyst. The openness and the presence and the vulnerability.
And then what's beautiful is a lot of the time when you take the pressure off, the beautiful climax comes easier, pun intended, comes. So yes. Yeah, so good. Let me check if there are any more questions, because I know that we both have lives and our viewers have lives to get back to. My favorite question to ask is, how can people who are watching this Facebook Live with us, that are here with us from Texas and Belfast and all over, how can they stay connected to you and the work that you do?
One easy way is, let's open a conversation on Facebook Messenger. Come find me. Daniel Adams, I'd love to converse. Love to chat, love to know what's fresh and happening for you. And I'd love to share what's going on for me, and let's open some dialogue like humans, like mammals, and just talk and open a conversation. I'm pretty active on Facebook if you'd love to connect, around my profile or whatnot. And then also, like Meg mentioned at the beginning, www.youcancreate.org. You can see what my wife and I are up to. She does a lot with introverts and helping them be comfortable in their body and, living in an extrovert world. What is it like to be quiet? And I love to coach one-on-one. Dropping a course here in the next couple of weeks that I'm crazy excited about. That's 3 pillars for powerful relationships. And did I answer the question? I have so many thoughts. I'm so excited.
Yes. Such a fun topic. Yeah, I think, yeah, you did. Yeah, you have an upcoming course, 3 pillars of healthy relationships.
3 powerful pillars to energize relationships.
Oh, so exciting. Well, I tagged you in the comments below. So friends that are watching this, scroll down through the comments and click on Daniel's name and then follow him on Facebook. And you can also send questions that you thought, man, I really want to ask Daniel this question, but there's other people watching this right now, so I want to ask him in private. So do that. Message him, ask him in private. He will serve you well. So thank you so much for being with us tonight, Daniel.
Thanks for having me on, Meg. It's always good to connect with you. You've got such a fun energy.
So fun. So fun. Ditto, ditto. And come back here Sunday morning, 10 Central Standard Time. We're going to be unpacking the money block for Christian content creators. So if you are writing a book, writing a blog, starting a podcast, starting a blog, wanting to coach, whatever you are doing, and you're thinking, I'm so uncomfortable charging. I am so uncomfortable even talking about money. It's a ministry. You shouldn't pay for it. All of those things. You have a money block.
And money.
Yes. Yeah.
We go and talk about them.
Yes, exactly.
And just keep saying yes.
Yep. So we're going to talk about your money block, Sunday morning, 10 Central Standard Time. Come back here in this Facebook group. Follow Daniel, continue having your life blessed, and keep cultivating sanctuary.